Welcome. This is Beyond Category, and I'm Eric Felten. We're here at the Blues Alley Jazz Supper Club in Washington, D.C. to hear a wonderful jazz pianist and band leader, Helen Sung. She's going to play music from her new disc, Anthem for a New Day. Let's check it out. Helen Sung, that was wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Now that tune, that was a great Duke Ellington song, It Don't Mean a Thing If It Ain't Got That Swing.
Yes, one of jazz's very famous, iconic tunes.
But it wasn't all swing in your version. You took it in a lot of different places.
Yes, I hope I don't get cited for that, especially considering the title, but that's something I like to do, presenting really well-known standards in unexpected ways. Yeah. It's fun.
Now, your path was maybe an unexpected path to jazz. You weren't planning to be a jazz musician when you were studying in high school and in college.
No, when people ask me about that, I said, you know, God must have wanted me to be a jazz musician because it's something I never would have thought for myself. You know, I was trained by a very strict classical teacher from the Russian school who basically instilled in me the only music worth listening to is classical music. And I, you know, like a dutiful Asian student, I followed her lockstep until almost the end of my undergrad studies at UT Austin.
Now, I hear that you had a kind of aha moment that opened your ears to jazz. Tell us about that.
Well, it's kind of funny because a friend of mine, you know, we were typical classical majors who spent most of our times in the practice room and didn't know much else. And she said, Harry Connick Jr.'s in town. Let's go hear him. And I said, well, I wasn't familiar with who he was. And she said, don't worry, he's really cute. You'll like him. And I said, okay. So we went, and he brought his big band, and they were very entertaining. But in the middle of the concert, he sat down and played some solo piano pieces. And I remember just being so struck. I wanted to jump out of the chair and scream because, you know, here's this guy playing the piano in a way I'd been taught never to do all my life. It was like attacking it almost, but the music was so alive, you know, grabbed me in a way that no other music had. And
you can hear in Harry Connick's playing, you probably had a chance to hear a lot of the jazz tradition all in one place in one moment.
It's remarkable. He's, you know, an amazing individual and really a fantastic pianist. So after that, I was like, I got to find out more about this music.
But now here you were, a classical piano major, and then you went to tell your parents that you had decided to become a jazz piano player. What was their reaction to that?
Well, they were already kind of unhappy because they wanted me to be a doctor. So when I said, no, I want to study music, you know, they at least had some sort of frame of reference for classical music, but jazz, like, what? They thought I had lost my mind. So yeah, I was lectured for a couple hours there. But, you know, it was just one of those things. And I can't say that I was some very brave, rebellious individual, but I think, you know, something in me just, I was called to play this music, I feel, in some ways.
And have they come around to understanding your life as a jazz musician?
Well, I don't know if they understand it all that much, but I think they can tell that I love what I'm doing and that I'm happy doing it. And I think that's what matters to them.
Well, let's hear some more of that music you do. What could you do for us next?
I'd like to play an original called Hope Springs Eternally.
Helen Sung. Helen Sung. So that song was your tune. That was an original. When did you start composing music in a jazz idiom?
You know, it wasn't until I was studying at the Monk Institute of Jazz Performance, which started at the New England Conservatory in Boston. That's what first brought me to the East Coast from Houston, Texas, Austin, Texas, where I'm originally from. The Monk Institute program was a 2-year diploma study curriculum, and the great bassist Ron Carter was the artistic director. And so you can imagine it was a pretty intense 2 years. And I appreciate just the entire experience. And one of the things he told us and made us do that I still appreciate and make my students do today is he said, you know, if you want to develop your own voice, you have to write music. And as a classical pianist growing up, that was something I was never told to do. I never even thought to do it.
Finding your own voice is such a tough thing because, especially coming to jazz late, you had this whole century-long tradition of jazz music to immerse yourself in, to learn about things that you had to sort of catch up about, all while trying to figure out how to create a voice for yourself.
It is 100 years, but in this big scope of things, it's really not that long. But at the same time, we weren't creating the music as it was developing, like the greats that we all look up to.
The title tune to your new record,
yes.
I still think of them as records,
CDs,
discs, album, whatever we want to call it. But the title tune, one of your originals, is called Anthem for a New Day. Mm-hmm. How is it an anthem? Is it something that is really a sort of a statement of where you want to be and where you want to go musically?
I think it's a culmination of sorts of just different concepts and ideas I've been living with for the past few years. But at the same time, I think it's a marker, a point looking ahead to see maybe, this is where I'm headed also. So it's like this interesting meeting of the future and the past and the present.
Well, could you play it for us?
Sure, we'll try.
All right, we'll see where Helen Sung is going. one of your inspirations is, of course, Thelonious Monk.
Yes.
There's somebody who is about as far away from legit technique as you can imagine. And, his whole approach to the piano is so idiosyncratic and personal.
Yes.
And what are you able to take away from that?
I have so much respect for Thelonious Monk, and it just keeps growing. Because I have to admit, the first time I heard him, I was not into it. I was like, what is this guy doing? It sounds like he's banging, like, in not a very nice way, and his lines are it's just foreign to me. But, going to the Monk Institute, naturally I had to learn a lot of his music, and I just am blown away. What a genius. He never sounded like anyone except himself. And that's not an easy thing to do. And it's him the minute you hear him. And, I transcribed a good amount of his solos, and just the way he gets around on the keyboard, it's very unique. It's not something it's not pianistic in the way, like, we talk about. It's like you said, very idiosyncratic. And so him, and so brilliant, so amazing. Another pianist I've been really getting into recently is the great Joe Zawinul. And I feel the same way about him, just his approach to soloing. And he's one of the oh-no's. It's just so special and very inspiring.
Monk gave you enough inspiration to write a tune that is the first tune on your new disc,
yes.
Brother Thelonious, and I really dig that tune.
Thank
I was wondering
you.
if I could sit in with you on that.
Of course, but I do have to give a little bit of a backstory. I hope you don't mind.
Not at all.
I was actually commissioned to write that song by a brewery in Fort Bragg, California, called North Coast Brewing. And the brewmaster, they're all jazz fans. And so, Belgian ale traditionally has been made by Trappist monks. So they're like, well, what are we going to call this beer, So they came up with Brother Thelonious. And they are actually huge supporters of the Monk Institute. They donate a portion of their proceeds to the Institute and jazz education. For the past, I would say 8 to 9 years, I think by April they'll have surpassed the $1 million mark. So I think that's an amazing story. I just wish I were more of a beer drinker. But I'm so happy to have you sit in, and let's have some fun.
Terrific. Helen Sung. I'd like to thank Helen Sung and her band, and Blues Alley Jazz Supper Club for hosting us. I hope you'll join us again for more good music on Beyond Category. I'm Eric Felten.